used to structure your curriculum design and better serve the students in your classroom. Mastery Connect can be free, and if you choose to join for free, or if you choose to join as a pro or as a district-wide through your school administration, whichever you choose, once you choose a selection, you go in here and you sign up for your free account. It will need to be used with your school ID, your school email address, so that it can link into your school tools. Because I already have an account, I go to login. This login is Google based. It will save it as your Google credentials once you sign in, and you can go through any of the Google based tools to use this. When you first come to Mastery Connect, you will be open to your home dashboard. This dashboard provides you with a news feed. This news feed shows all of the teachers that you follow or that you are involved in their assessment tool preparation. These teachers are all teachers in my school that actually teach math in the same hallway that I teach math. These tools can be used by anyone if they are shareable when you set them up. The first task that you will want to accomplish when you come to Mastery Connect is set up your trackers. These trackers are your classes, and what these do is they will be used when you set up your assessment tools and will be able to determine their mastery once you have them set. To add a tracker, you go to the blue button up in the right-hand corner and you hit Add a Tracker. Here, it will bring you to what subject you would like to add. When you select your subject, you want to do what it is most relatable to. I teach Algebra 2, so I use math. This subject will also be used when I set up my assessment so that my trackers and my assessments will coincide with each other. Because I select math and I am an Oklahoma teacher, it automatically opens up to the Oklahoma Math Standards, the Oklahoma Academic Standards for Math, designed in 2016. I also use the national assessment tools here on this national, and I use the ACT, and they have taken away the ACT standards, so I'm going to go back to my math standards. I choose a class. This class is what class I teach. You can use any grade, and then once you get to the grade levels, then you get to your mathematics standards because I chose math. I teach Algebra 2, so I select Algebra 2. The description is I'll usually put my name, and I will say first hour Oklahoma Academic Standards Tracker. This will be my label when I add it to my list of trackers. You can change colors. If you want to change it to a different folder color, it doesn't matter. It says add students. Our school uses PowerSchool, so I'm going to use those PowerSchool coincide student names. And if you look, it says import from SIS. That's why it says import students from SIS. We call it Little Sis. She's not very friendly sometimes because she adds and deletes students from your roles without you asking, but we use her anyway. So since I use first hour, I'm going to go down here to my first hour here and select those students. And those students, these students that are listed here are students that are in my first semester, second semester PowerSchool roles. Once I have that entered, I hit Create Tracker, and it will open, slowly but surely, it will open to my list of trackers. These are the ones that I've already got students into my trackers. I'm not quite sure. There she is. So I go down here to my first hour OAS tracker. These students are also listed in my other trackers. That's why it opened to these students. Once you have your trackers set, then you will want to add the assessments that you want to use. You can either add your assessments through your assessment tab, or you can add through your tracker assessments. Once I hit add, and if you look through here, these are assessments from all over the world. You'll see that you have subjects, Arabic, you've got third grade language arts, fifth grade looks like Spanish, you've got science of different levels, and if these people have posted these assessments and made them public, you can use them in your own assessment tool bank. I don't know any of these people, so I'm going to go in and add my own assessment. And when I add that assessment, I want this subject area to match the subject area that I set on my standard for my trackers. I chose math. That way, when I go to add my trackers to this assessment, they will match. I'm using the Oklahoma Math Standards. I'm going to use this first hour of the OAS tracker because that's what I used. But I'm going to go down here and use Algebra 2. Because if I don't use Algebra 2 and I just put it in with that tracker, it will only go in that tracker. It won't go into my other trackers. Here, I'm going to pick my standard. These are the labeled standards for Algebra 2 for the state of Oklahoma. All through here. If you want to make it multi-standard, you can make it multi-standard, and I'll show you why I'm going to do that. We're going to make this practice test for LDT. Okay, make a title. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my assessment stores. I'm going to upload it because more than likely it is saved on my hard drive, either on my school computer or my home computer. So I'm going to upload a file, and then I'm going to choose this file. I'm going to go in here to 2021 because that's where all my school stuff is. And we're going to put in, let's just put in this Arithmetic Cities PDF. It must be a PDF to be added into Mastery Connect. The thing that you will want to make sure you do, because if not, you get to the end, it's not going to let you save it unless you hit this assessment is not copyrighted. It needs to be an original assessment, not owned by someone else. Here you will choose, who do I want to share it with? Do I want to make it share with everybody? Do I want to make it private to me, private to my school, private to my district? I typically make it private to my school, mainly because the assessments that we are using are all school-based, school intended use. I go here to add my questions and their answers. If I have an assessment that is 20 questions, I'm going to hit this button 20 times to add those 20 questions in. And I'm going to keep going until 20. What I will need to do for each question is I'm going to provide, is it going to be multiple choice? If it's not multiple choice, I need to change it to a true false. That way it changes your answers to a true false. Do I want to make it a multi-select? Do I want to make it a bubble sheet? And what this will do is that you will provide them with that assessment tool that you can scan at the end. I make mine multiple choice. That way I can easily use the data to show my students. I'm going to change the standard that I want it to use. Let's say we're going to use A2N13. And I'm going to say answer is D. Answer for 2 is B. Answer for 3 is C. And then I'm going to change these to my other ones. If I want to leave it, if I want to make it a different type of question, I can change that here. So I do this for all the number of questions that I have added into that assessment. And then when I get here to the bottom, it will show me. M means mastery, N means not near mastery. I'm going to put in here a total number of questions that need to be correct for them to receive mastery for that standard. Here, for near mastery, I'm going to make it 2. For here, I'm going to make it 1. Same thing here. I base mine on a mastery at 70% and a near mastery at 60%. Because in our school, we do the 10-point system. 70 is a C. 60 is the D that comes right before you receive an F. And once I get to this point, I create the assessment. Oh, I got to answer my questions. If it doesn't like what you do, it will tell you in big red letters. I'm going to hit create assessment. And what that does is that pulls up a list of your test, so that way your students can use that on their test. It gives you total score. It tells you which standards you used. It gives you your answer key correctly here. From this point, now that it has been added, I'm going to add it to my tracker. Now, these are my trackers that I've selected for my previous school year. I'm going to use this tracker, the one that I made for you guys. I'm going to hit the select button and hit add. And what that will do is that will add that assessment to these students. And what I have done is I've now listed, and it's going to tell me how many answers they get correct for each standard for each section. Once it has been added to your trackers, you will want to provide your students with the assessment code. What I do with mine typically is I provide them with 4 different versions of each of my assessments. They have the same questions, they have the same answers. The questions and the answers are just mingled in between to cut down on cheating. I have juniors, and so I try and provide them with opportunities to not cheat by providing them with 4 different versions. So at this point, I will go to this box up at the top and hit this assess button. And what that does is it comes up with my test ID that I will provide to my students. I can use this test ID for up to 7 days. If I would like to change that and only open it for an hour, I can change that, make it for only an hour, and hit update. So that tells me for 60 minutes that test code will be available. If I want to just provide it for the amount of time that my students are in my classroom, I'm going to hit custom and tell you exactly what time I want it to start, what time I want it to stop, when I want it to open, and when it needs to be done. This test code is what I use, and I put this into my Google Classroom and provide my students with this test code so that they are able to log into Mastery Connect Student and take this test. Because not only is there a version for educators, there's also a version for our students. It's easy for them to log in. They put in their assessment code, they put in their ID, because our school is based on school IDs, and they're able to take that test. And it pulls up for them, and it shows them the test, and on the left hand side is the test, and the right hand side are your answer bubbles to answer your test. Most of the assessments that I use for Mastery Connect are provided students a score at the end. It makes it easy for them to see instant gratification. Our students love instant gratification. It also provides teachers with the needed tools to determine whether our students understood our content or did not. And the easiest way to do this is to go back to my trackers. I'm going to use this class. And I'm going to show you where you can go in. If I was to go into this tool right here, this is my learning target assessment. This was one of our assessments that we had to take for all of our students in our school. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hope my computer works, and I'm going to arrow over here to this LTA, and I'm going to, instead of doing assess, I'm going to come down here to reports. And what this does is this provides me a report for my 5th hour class for each question, whether they scored it with mastery, near mastery, or remediation. For the entire, this is my LTA. Was a 12 question assessment. It was, did they understand the concepts that we were teaching them? If I wanted to look at all of my classes, I can go in here and hit my trackers. And what this will do is this will show all of my students for each question, whether they received mastery, near mastery, or remediation. So you can see these standards. I can go in here and I can compare with teachers in my school that also teach Algebra 2 and gave this same assessment. And you can see how each of those students scored for each of the questions. My favorite part of this is if I want to look at, did my students get it? This is a breakdown of my 5th hour only. Did they master it? Did they near master it? Did they remediate it? On the entire test. I can go look at all of my students and to see how they did on the test. Fast, easy, quick. I can look at tracker comparison and go, here's each of my hours. Here's how they did. Mastery, near mastery, remediation. If I wanted to compare with my other teachers, this breaks it down into mine, another fellow Algebra 2 teacher, and there's 3 of us that teach Algebra 2. I have 5 hours, he has 2 hours, she has 1 hour. So you can see the differences. Then we can look at